The Big Short is about a group of outsiders in the high finance world who basically predict the financial collapse and the housing bubble crisis, and they find a way to sort of bet against the big banks and win. He's loosely based on a real person who worked for Deutsche Bank, but he's also the narrator of the story, so he sort of wears a lot of hats in the film. Jared is kind of tipped off to these credit default swaps that Michael Burry is purchasing from the big banks, and he's unique in a sense that he doesn't think it's crazy at all. It's really sort of confirms a suspicion that he's had for a long time that things are just too good to be true and can't go on this way forever. So he doesn't take any convincing to sort of follow suit. He recognizes the genius of what Dr. Burry's doing. I think what makes the film special is that although its characters are walking a moral tightrope, the film never really is, because the film never celebrates the score that the characters pull off in the end. Even Brad's character has a great line towards the end of the film where he says, you realize what you've just done. You've just bet against the American economy, and if you win, hardworking people will suffer. So at least have the decency not to celebrate. So I think the film sort of has strong moral footing. Playing a living person is really tricky, and but what it really depends on is the filmmaker that you're working with, because they're the ones at the end of the day who decide how the audience feels about this character or not. And I just felt that Adam's intentions were so good, and that he really wasn't trying to depict any one person in a negative light, and he really wanted to educate the audience in an entertaining way. So it felt like one of those opportunities where you could play a living person. Also, specifically in my character's case, he really is the least like the real person of any of them in the film, because he is the narrator. So, a lot of licenses had to be taken with that role, and so, we changed his name, and he really did become very different than the real person. I really like the book, and I like the way Michael Lewis writes. I feel like he has a great way of taking worlds that are hard to sort of penetrate and giving you access into them by a human approach. He finds characters that are empathetic or interesting, and he sort of helps you to understand this story on a personal level. I'm a fan of his anyway. His movies aren't even really like movies. They're more like, they feel like friends of mine. You want to you check in with them every once in a while. You miss them. They're very special films. He's a very special filmmaker, and you could tell from the script that he had something to say about this country and about how this happened and why this happened, and it felt so well intended that for me it was I feel very lucky to be part of it, to work with him on it. Steve's just a great actor. I've had the opportunity to work with him twice now, and I'm just, and also I'm a fan of his work, but he's just such a great actor. The character he was playing was based on a real person, and that guy came to set, and just seeing them stand next to each other and seeing them talk was sort of, it was really impressive. Steve was doing an incredible job of capturing who this guy was. So it's hard to say, it's hard to articulate how, but it's just when you saw them next to each other, you realize just how great what Steve was doing really was. I think it is a history lesson, and it is a cautionary tale. It's also just a really fun ride. It's a lot of things, and I think whether it's in the financial world, or I think you could apply the sort of the willful ignorance that the characters embody in the movie, you know, to a lot of different situations. And even the movie ends on a sentiment on a financial level of a new sort of version of a CDO that's already been created, and so it's sort of it's tipping the idea that this is already sort of in a subversive way happening again. I can identify with probably most of the audience, which is that this is a world and subject matter I never thought, first of all, could be very interesting, or that I would really completely understand. And I think that Adam and the whole team have really done a really great job of sort of like shaking the rug and showing you, you know, what it really is, and helping you to have an understanding of it, you know, which I think, you know, is very unique in a film. I can't think of many films that kind of leave you with, like, that are educational in that way, but as entertaining as this one is as well. Brad is very, very funny in the movie, and very, you know, really kind of the moral compass in a way, if there is one. And I think he does a great job with it, and obviously is part of the reason why it happened at all. And you know, Christian just did it's really one of my, I mean, I'm a big fan of his anyways, but it's one of my favorite characters that he's played. You know, it's very very funny and very touching, and you know, really beautifully handled. You know, Steve, I felt the same way, and all of the day players. I mean, everybody's really, you know, Adam had a way of getting just great performances out of everybody.